Okay, apparently I am live. Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday night here from Zhongshan, China. I've been having trouble with my audio today for some reason. I don't know why. But if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. I think, yeah, see, the connection is not always that great. When you live stream from mainland China, the connection can sometimes be difficult. So again, if for some reason I cut out during the middle of this live stream, hang on, it should come back. But if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Let me know my audio is okay because I've been having trouble with the mic today. I don't know why. I think I have to talk really close to the microphone. Lots of things to talk about today. Like I said, it's Sunday night. It's about 11. Thank you very much, Lisa. I appreciate that. Lisa and Mandy on the road. It's about 11:30 here in at night on Sunday night, so that means it's about Sunday morning in the States. And if you're out there, give me a shout out. Let me know where you're watching me from. I love the internet, and I think it's a wonderful thing that I get to talk with people all around the world during these live streams. And over the last 2 months, especially as I've been kind of stuck here and locked up, it has meant a lot to me. So thank you everyone who does tune in and watch me. Cheers! I have a little bit of rum tonight. I'm drinking a little bit of Captain Morgan. It's Sunday night, so I thought I'd give myself a little treat. So I have some good news to share with you. If you don't know, I have been stuck on this college campus pretty much all alone for the last 2 months. And little by little, they've lessened the restrictions on me. I was on restrictions completely. I couldn't leave. No one could come see me, so it was complete isolation. And then after about 3 weeks of that, they allowed me to go off the campus once every 3 days for a few hours to go get some food. And then they lessened that to once every 2 days. And now, as of just recently, they have loosened my restrictions, so now I can leave once per day, which is great. Now, if I leave the campus and come back, then they won't let me off again. So it's you still have to. I hope the stream is okay. I keep getting this error message. This might not be a good stream. If you guys can hear me, let me know. I'm sorry that if the stream is bad. Live streaming from mainland China is never an easy thing. But yes, I can leave once per day now. And today I was actually leaving, trying to get off the campus, and security wouldn't let me go. They kind of said, "No, you can't go." So it being Sunday, they had to call like the president of the college, and the president had to say, "Yeah, no, he's good to go." So, but what I saw was this. So here, I don't know if you can see that, but those are students. These are students that are coming onto campus. And my original thought was, oh my God, the students are coming back. Classes are going to start again soon. But no, that's not the case. These are students that are coming back with special permission to get into their dorm rooms to get all of their things and then leave again. So I haven't heard any other information from the administration about if school's going to be starting again this year or not, but I have seen more and more students coming onto the campus during the day, and then a few hours later they are leaving with their bags. So I believe that they are if you walk through some of the areas where the dormitories are, there's a really foul smell coming from a lot of, because they were only supposed to be gone for like a week or 2 weeks for the Spring Festival, and here we are 2 months later. So there's got to be some food that is just rotting up there because there's a nasty smell coming from many of these dormitories. Of course, everything is filthy, dirty, and as you've seen in some of my videos, many of the balcony doors for these dorm rooms have been left open, and they bang, and when the wind blows them open, they bang. So God knows what animals have crawled in there and the bedding and the clothes that have been left to the elements over the last 2 months. I would be scared to go in there. Now there is one other teacher that has moved into the campus. He lives in the apartment above me. I don't see him very much, but he's there with his two little boys. And during the day they leave, and at night they come back, and that's about as far as I know with that. I have been going around the town a lot. When I am out, I take advantage of the time and try to see as much as possible. And as you guys saw, I got to go for a hike with a good buddy, and went and visited another friend who's still on lockdown himself. He hasn't left his apartment in 2 months, and brought him some beer. And that was, I think that's the only human contact he's had other than his direct neighbors and his wife. So I would hope that we all stay vigilant, but the rest of Zhongshan has no restrictions that I'm aware of. The rest of Guangdong has no restrictions that I'm aware of. Now, here in Zhongshan and many of the districts, we're still on a medium threat level, so there's still roadblocks everywhere, and you can only go so far before running into another roadblock. And see that it seems like YouTube is not receiving my live stream. Oh well. I'll give you some other information before I get into today's topic. The other day I went to Panyu, Guangzhou. She says, still hear you with no interruptions so far. That's great, Lisa. Thank you. I don't know. On my computer, everything is going crazy. So I have no idea if anyone's actually watching me right now or not. If this continues, I'll just end the live stream early and then make a recording and send it out to you guys instead of a live stream. I like the live stream because you can chat with me and talk directly. If I just do a recording and post it, then there's no real-time interaction. So it's a much different form. But I went to Panyu, to IKEA, and now IKEA just opened up again. And Panyu is a southern district of Guangzhou. Panyu is a southern district of Guangzhou, and IKEA has been closed, and it opened up again this week. So I went to go check it out, and this is what I saw. I don't know if I can see that. Okay, so you can see there. That's the entrance there. Let's see. Let me make it a little bit better for you guys. Sorry. All right, so that's the entrance to the IKEA in Panyu. And it's these two guys in mild hazmat suits. There's no QR code to scan. They didn't ask for the red, green, yellow app that many businesses, especially here in Zhongshan, are requiring. But you did have to stand in this little box, and a computer took your picture and took your temperature, and it was like facial recognition. So that's what they did. And then when I went in, it looked like business as usual. There were tons of people there. They weren't, from what I could see, they were not limiting the amount of people that were in there. And people were sitting in all the chairs, and they were shopping and touching everything, and everyone was wearing a mask, except for the children. The children like to take their masks off and run around. I can imagine that would be difficult. And but people were like sleeping in the chairs and laying in the beds. But the restaurant was closed and takeout only. They weren't letting anybody into the restaurant. And you had to you had to show your app to get into the restaurant part, where they serve the Swedish meatballs and stuff. So I thought that was rather interesting. Okay. So we've got Massachusetts, we've got Oklahoma. USA brought the virus to China Military World Games in Wuhan is when they planted the virus, and that's a horrible, horrible conspiracy theory that I do not support at all. It's the same thing we heard Americans were saying. Oh, that the virus was done in a lab in Wuhan and released as bioterrorism or biowarfare, and that's also complete craziness. So, I reject that completely. There's also a lot of conspiracy theories out there that this is like the new world order controlling people, and it's like a trial run for for what um, for what's coming next. I think that's complete BS as well. I don't subscribe to any of those. It is what it is, guys. It happened. You can't point. I don't point the finger at anybody. I don't care what it's called. There's a big controversy now about what we call this. And I think that whole argument on both sides is really stupid. It's called COVID-19. That's what the WHO has called it, so we call it that. It doesn't matter what you call it. It is what it is. After Monday at work, be able to go to work. Live in Kansas City area. John, so you'll be able to go to work on Monday? In California, they closed everything down, and it's completely shocked me. So, cheers, everybody. Have some rum. I've got Captain Morgan this evening. The price for American liquor has gone up. A bottle of Jim Beam has gone up about 20%. That's really my drink of choice. I really like Jim Beam. And the selection is a lot less. If you go to the international foods section of most of the supermarkets here, the shelves are half empty or half full, however you want to say it. And that's mostly because the shipments haven't been coming in. So, and also wine. There's no wine, foreign wine. And that's going to continue to increase. I mean, the domestic products here, there's a lot of them. So, let's see who else. Matthew. I don't know you, sir. Hi from the UK. I am at the private American high school in Guangdong, and there are no plans for us to be back campus anytime soon. It's likely the semester will be complete by distant learning. Great. That is what I want to talk about today is distance learning, the rest of the semester, the rest of the term, teaching online. How is that going to affect us as teachers? How is that going to affect the students and society as a whole? That is really what I want the topic of this live stream to be today. But first, I need to get some things off my chest. And the first thing I want to do, those of you who have been following me for a while know I have differing opinions about what's going on in the world. I don't want to say it's differing. I just have a different... Well, okay. I've gotten a lot of flack from people about some of the things that I've said. I don't change the things that I said. I apologize if I don't articulate my message properly. I will try to work on that more, I guess. But it's a very unpopular opinion that I have that things are overprotected. I don't want to say overprotected, but blown way out of proportion as far as the response to the coronavirus. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think that this is a serious issue. Of course I do. It doesn't mean that I want people to die, as people have very rudely pointed out to me. They say, oh, you must want people to die. And that's ridiculous. I'm a human being, and to tell me that really breaks my heart. But as far as the measures that are taken in the United States, as far as and what's going on there, I do think that they are a little over the top. And remember, I don't have a dog in this fight. I live in China. I live through China's response. And now you can compare things in there. That's only natural, but you have to remember that China is a different monster completely. But you have to remember, China is a completely different monster. It's a different people. It's a different government system. It's a different culture. The culture here is very collectivist. And the longer that I'm here, the more and more I see it. The more and more I realize it. And it really slaps you in the face when you get off the airplane in Los Angeles after being here for a while and you see the differences. And I'm starting to see those differences erode a little bit. I think we can learn from China, definitely, but we are not China. America is a different country and a different culture, and we do things a different way. And that's not something I'm going to apologize for. But this has caused a rift with a lot of people that I'm close to. There's a lot of emotion surrounding this issue, and I try to keep emotion out of it and look at things objectively. But evidently, I get accused of being selfish and inconsiderate, and that's not my purpose here. Because I'm not freaking out and going crazy, and I never have freaked out. I've never been fearful of this whole issue. Somehow that translates to me being careless and cavalier, and I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm trying to tell them. I have no hate in my heart for people who do say these really nasty things to me. I've gotten many emails from people that, have wished me to catch the coronavirus and die. Hey, believe it. It's they're trolls out there, and that's unfortunate. But I understand their fear, and I understand where they're coming from. I really do. But I can't help but feel the way I feel, and express my feelings on my channel. But of course, when you put yourself out there on YouTube and you express those opinions, you're bound to have people who disagree with you. And I've really, really, and I have to say this, I've loved some of the comments that have been, who have disagreed with me, but at the same time, they have been very constructive in their criticism and very intelligent. And I've pointed that out, and I really appreciate that. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I love a good debate. I really do. So bring it, but don't be mean. Okay. So my whole issue with what's going on has to do with, am I still connected, guys? On my end here, there's a ton of issues. As I burp into the microphone. Can you guys please give me another thumbs up? Let me know you're still out there. I don't see anybody connected all of a sudden. Okay, it's not working out. Again, if you guys, please, if you can hear me, you can see me, give me a thumbs up. On my end, there's no connection. So if I don't get a thumbs up, I'm going to end the live stream and just do a recording and release it live recording. Okay, it looks like my connection isn't working. So I'm going to end it here. I'm sorry, folks. I'd really like to talk with you guys, but I'm just going to do a recording and... Oh. You can still hear and see me, huh? 0, 1, Harry Duffy. Okay, there you go. I'm starting to get the reactions now. Thank you, everybody, by the way. Yes, it's typical when you do live streams, this happens. So thank you, everybody. Oh my God, horrible thing. Yes, it is a horrible thing. I can hear and see you. Thank you, Matthew. Do you think media played a role in the disproportionate response as more extreme news brings more Absolutely. More clues, views, and money and forces government public responses. Absolutely. That has been my argument from the very beginning. It's an unpopular thing to say, and you open yourself up to a lot of scrutiny. But there are a lot of people out there that believe exactly what I've been saying since the very beginning. 2 months ago, I was saying this, that the media is causing a panic, and it's my opinion that the people are panicked, and the politicians are then virtue signaling and saying, okay, well, we need to react to the people. The same thing happened here in China, by the way. When the news got a hold of this, and the people started to panic. And so all of the little cities here in Guangdong started putting their own little restrictions in place. And then I remember I was actually on the highway driving out to Yangshuo, and we were just going for a vacation. This is before the whole panic set into China. And we got these news reports on the phone saying that certain cities throughout, as we were driving into Guangxi, certain cities throughout Guangdong had closed down. And so Sanwei closed. And we're like, oh wow, Sanwei closed. Wow. Then Zhuhai closed. Whoa. This is after Wuhan had closed. And then they closed Chengdu. What's going on here? And then we spent 2 days in Yangshuo and there was nobody there. So then we came back into Guangdong. Everything was fine. Yeah, the texts are taking a while to reach me, Lisa. So yeah, but thank you guys. So it's virtue signaling, something politicians do. And then when the central government, got a hold of the situation, then they just locked down the entire country. And that's what happened. And that's what I'm starting to see in America now. You're starting to see this politician put restrictions on a certain city, and then, the state governor needs to do that now, so the state governor gets involved, and then the state next to him says, well, he did that. I don't want to be on the wrong side of history here. I don't know what to do, but I have to do something, even if it's too much. And so he does it. Now, I've on the record saying that I'd rather there be an overreaction than an underreaction. I think we all can agree on that, right? But there is a happy medium, and what you're starting to see that here in China. China's been through the worst, and it looks like things have died down as far as the infections go, but everyone is still on high alert. I'm still on travel restrictions. Anyone coming into Guangdong, everyone, regardless of nationality, has to do 2 weeks of quarantine. I know many people who are isolated in a hotel room and they cannot leave for 2 weeks. And that's fine. I'm all for social distancing and putting these things into place. Okay, but as far as American society, which values independence, freedom of choice, to allow your freedoms to be taken away from you in the eyes of this, to me, is un-American. And now that doesn't mean you should go to the beach and party with your friends and 1,000 friends on the beach. I think that's kind of ridiculous. But according to the CDC, limit to 50 people per. This is the CDC. They say limit gatherings of 50 people. That means you can go to dinner if you want. Now, if you don't want to get sick, if you have people at home that you don't want to infect, if you're worried about that, then don't go. That is your choice to make as an American citizen. And when that choice is taken away from you, it no longer is a right. It's no longer a freedom of choice that you have. It is simply a privilege that you have given up. And we as Americans should not allow that to happen. Our entire history is based on people fighting and dying to have these rights these rights. And it's something that we all hold dear. Now, when I was living in America, sure, I had the right to free speech and religion and all that stuff. But when living in a foreign country, especially a country like China, you really get a better sense and an understanding of what that really is, because the rest of the world really doesn't have the same kind of freedoms that we do in America. And I think I took it for granted when I was there, and I see it very, very perfectly. I said before, every time I go home, I get off the plane in LA, I rent a car. The first thing I do is turn on the news reports to get the traffic reports so I can get home. And I'm it slaps me in the face. I'm blown away by news about homelessness, dissenting viewpoints of government and debate on policies and should you vote for this? Should we be spending the money on this? Corruption scandals, um, movie reviews, these types of things. And it's not just good movie reviews, but bad movie reviews, and callers calling in, and I mean, hell, even the traffic report. You say there's an accident on this, so you avoid this. That doesn't exist here. None of that does. And again, it has to do with that whole freedom of speech thing. It's just one of those freedoms. Can you imagine taking that away from you? We don't have. They don't have that in the same sense in many countries around the world. And another one is your freedom of choice, your independence. And it happened after September 11th. People were scared and frightened, and you saw some of these rights and freedoms being taken away. We allowed them to. We allowed, out of fear, we allowed them to look into our phone records and data with the passing of the Patriot Act, the Patriot Act 2. And that's unfortunate. Now, it's a very unpopular thing for me to say that shutting down a city, shutting down a state, forcibly shutting it down is over the top, because a lot of people will automatically assume that means that I'm pro-virus, that I want people to get sick, or that I don't take it seriously. And that's not the case. Okay? I said all along that isolation, quarantine, modifying your behaviors, social distancing, these are good things. This is what you should be doing. Those people out on the beach partying it up, we should, give some shaming to them. Okay? But unless martial law is declared and we see tanks on the roads of Los Angeles, you should still have the right to choose for yourself and make that decision. And it's part of living in a free society. It's going to be messy. It's going to maybe make things a little bit more difficult to control. And that's where leadership comes in. If you have good leadership at the top to help project these ideas and these values of protecting one another, then things should be better. But don't let them take your freedoms away. That is an un-American thing to do. And a lot of people say, well, it's for the best. I'll give up a little freedom for safety. Well, we all have guns. No one's going to take our guns away. We won't let them. It's one of our rights to have guns. I don't hunt, but I do believe in the right to have a gun because it is one of our rights established in the Constitution. Yet thousands of people die every year from gunshots. It's part of living in a free society. Freedom isn't free. It sounds like a cliche thing to say, but it's very, very true. And things are messy sometimes, especially in a democracy. Now, I'm saying all this because I have the right. It's not just my right to say this and express my opinion about this, but it's also my responsibility. When you live in a democracy, that's what it's about. It's a clash of ideas. And this concept has never been more clear or more important to me than my time spent abroad, especially in a country like China, which doesn't have the same sense. Now, I'm not saying that America is better than China when it comes to this, okay? And I'm not saying China is better than America. I've been called a communist by many, many people. I'm not a communist. I'm an American, tried and true. Okay? But I'm just saying that the cultures are different. They're just different. And us understanding the two different cultures and how we deal with something like this is what I'm trying to do. Is take the emotion out of it, look at things objectively. Now, is shutting down a state and a city going to be a way to stop this virus? Absolutely. It's going to flatten the curve, as you're going to say. It's the quickest way to nip it in the butt. No doubt. I've said that from the very beginning, too. So if we're going to do this, great. Okay, the virus will go away as fast as we can. And there's many reasons why we're doing this, so we don't overrun the the medical systems and stuff. The medical people on the front line, we don't want to overburden them. Okay? They're going to be taxed over the next couple of months. Everyone knows that. They know that. They are getting ready for it. And we need to give them all the support that they need. So if this is what we're going to do, fine. But we're doing it at an extreme cost. I don't think people fully realize yet what this is going to do to the livelihoods and the lives of Americans when the cards fall out of the sky. We're seeing it here in China. Now, China has actually a very resilient economy, to believe it or not. It's very robust. It's very diverse. And they have a lot of different support mechanisms that come out of government. Many of the major industries here are not necessarily state-run, but they have ownership stakes from the government. And the government is rich because of that, and they can support these industries. America doesn't do that. America is a private industry country. So when the government entity comes in and says you can't do business, and all these people are laid off and have no income to feed their families, Now there is personal responsibility when it comes to this, but it's a well-known fact that more than half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck in Canada. I know because I was one of them when I was back home. I remember the 2008-2009 financial crisis when I lost my job, my income, all of my money, everything. And it was very difficult. It took me years to get back on my feet. And even then it was still a struggle, as life is. So, okay. I've had my rant. I'm going to continue my rant in a second, but I want to get to some of these comments from you guys. Again, not many viewers tonight, but that's okay. I know it's still early. It's Sunday. Yes, I think the overaction in many places, some needed, but I don't think shutting down most businesses. And thank you, John. I agree with you. And it doesn't need to be everywhere, by the way. If there is a surge in some distinct place, a surgical place in one city, that's where you close everything down and you clean up the mess, you let everything settle, and then you go back to business. There's a fine line that we can take here, and this is what you're seeing in China. The businesses are opening. Everyone's still on high alert here. They don't want to go backwards, and we still have cases coming in from all around the world, not necessarily from foreigners, but from anyone traveling to China. Things are still, but they're being smart about quarantining everyone that comes in. They're doing checks. They still have roadblocks in place. I'm still on restrictions. When I go into IKEA, they take my photo. They check my temperature. Everyone's still wearing masks. There was hand sanitizer and soap in every bathroom. And there's a lot of public shaming out there. Even in Zhongshan, I'm not required to wear a mask as I walk down the street. I'm only required to wear it when I go into a mall or a restaurant. But driving my car, walking in the hills, walking down the street, as long as I'm not around anywhere, I'm not required to wear a mask. However, good luck with that, because everyone's going to public shame you and say, hey, put on your mask. So there's a huge awareness of it here. And they're still able to try to restart the economy and do business. And even if the businesses don't make a profit, even making a little bit of money is better than making no money at all. And they understand this, and this is something that we can learn from it. This isn't a new ball game. China has been through that. The economy has been through that, and they realized, okay, we can do this smartly rather than just hit the economy with a blunt object. We can be more surgical. And that's what we should do. Now, in California, they shut down the entire state. Well, is that really needed in some of the more rural parts of California? If you live in a mountain town or a desert town with population 200 and no tourists, do you really need to shut down your restaurant and lay off your waitresses? Yes, that is happening. I'm sorry, I'm on a little rant here. I'm a little worked up. I apologize for that. I'm trying not to be emotional. I'm just extremely patriotic. Let's see, I'm sorry. Okay. Is the spread of the virus really over in the mainland? Scientists are saying that there will be inevitably a second wave once people get out from quarantine. Everyone is out of quarantine, Matthew. the people can come and go from for the most part, except for a few districts here in my city and a couple other districts throughout. The majority of Guangdong has no restrictions whatsoever. Businesses can open if they meet certain health guidelines, but those businesses have taken it upon themselves to protect the people. And the people have been practicing social distancing, and they've been taking care of business. So here, I'm going to give you an example here. Let me pull this up real quick. Please don't hate on me for my viewpoints. Having a dissenting opinion is important. The reason here's another thing. I'll give it before we go into that. Let me give you this real quick. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay. You even hear it. Cantonese morning tea. They dine in, but you can see. It's vertical. Okay, I'm not going to go to make it horizontal, but if you turn your head, you can see that. I went to Cantonese morning tea here at Lihe Plaza in Zhongshan, which is still a medium threat level. When I walked in, I had hand sanitizer. They checked my temperature, and they seated me and my guest for lunch. And normally, before the virus, this room was a giant dining room, and the tables are very close together. And the see people with families of 8 people, 3 generations, all enjoying some dim sum and some morning tea. It's a wonderful part of the culture here in southern China. And there's always as you can see, there's a big screen, and usually have some news or something on that screen. But even here, you even hear it. Cantonese morning tea. They dine in, but you can see that the tables are very spaced, very far apart from one another. For family, and then you can practice social distancing. If you're worried about getting in the elevator, well, people take the tissue out and they push the button with their tissue, or they use the knuckle, the back of their hands. They don't push the doors open with their hands. They kind of nudge it with their shoulders, so they don't use their hands. There's different behaviors that people are doing, and you're not seeing a spread. There are some imported cases, and they are identified almost immediately straight out of the airports and the ports of entry, and they are sent directly to quarantine. Everyone is sent to quarantine in isolation for at least 2 weeks, mandatory now, until you can come into the society. So now it says scientists are saying that there will inevitably be a second wave. It's not inevitable. Everyone's waiting to see if that's going to happen. Nobody really knows. It could happen. But if it does happen, China is prepared. They will exercise very surgical movements. So if one person gets it in the city, they're not going to shut down an economy of 3.5 million people. They will shut down that particular area, and cordon that off, test everyone, monitor everybody. That's the surgical way of doing it. Let's see. In my shop, just 2 people. I only allowed 1 customer at a time. Not essential, but many small businesses like ours are forced to close. And wear masks and clean after every customer. John, I'm happy that you can remain open, and you're allowed 1 customer at a time. That's better than not having any customers. And I know it's going to be a struggle, just like everyone else with a business. And many businesses don't even have customers. They just have workers if you have an online business. But if you serve customers directly, there's a way to limit interaction, but not shut it down. There's a way to do it smartly instead of just blanketly shutting everything down, which I think is the wrong thing to do. Never give up freedom for safety. So true. John, that's my opinion. There are many people that disagree with us on that, and that's fine. That's why we have active debate, and I welcome that debate, and I cherish and I celebrate that debate, because that's what being an American is all about. It is our responsibility to debate these issues. Even if you have a question, a small question, well, what if? What if? Bring it up. Because in many places in the world, you cannot ask, what if? I know this well. Beaches. I heard governor gonna give up to 2,000 per citizen. I've heard that too. This is a form. They did this also. I think after 9/11, they just sent everyone a check. Putting cash into people's hands is a way of helping people. It's a bailout of the. I'd rather than bail out people and send checks to people. You can call it like a tax rebate or a tax cut, just to lessen the burden that they're all gonna feel. I have nothing against that. I think it's a good thing. You have to be careful. You can't send them too much. You can't put too much money out into the society all at once because you'll have massive inflation. Uh, but also, if the businesses are closed, what are they going to spend the money on? What are you stimulating? What economy do you have to stimulate if you don't have a business to stimulate? Right? So, uh, landlords will get their rent. Yeah. Which I guess is a good thing. And then the landlords can then pay the banks their mortgage payments. But if it's just regular sustenance, $2,000 is an awful lot. Even in Los Angeles, $2,000 is an awful lot of money. That's per person, by the way. I think children are getting, a little bit less. And I know that it's very complicated. There's some means testing going on, but yeah. 10 deaths here in Scotland. Not too bad compared to the rest of the UK. Use common sense. That rarity these days. Thank you for agreeing with me. Again, you don't have to agree with me. There are many people that are the closest people in my life that I've had spirited debates about this, and emotions run high during these debates that don't agree with me. And it doesn't mean I don't love those people and they don't love me, but don't be afraid to voice your opinion. It doesn't make you pro-virus to think to yourself, you know what, maybe this is too far. Maybe we are doing a little too much. Maybe we are overreacting just a little bit. That's how I've been seeing it. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll admit that I'm wrong. Nobody really knows. We will find out. But I know that what I have been through in the last 2 months and what I see around me, and I do know America. I've only been in China 4 years. I do know America very, very well. I've been all over the country, almost all 48 continental states. I've lived all over the country. I know the people well, and I know our culture well. And I see everything just going away from our values. Now, it's still a novelty, this whole thing going on right now. And it's really interesting, to be honest, to see the freeways of Los Angeles completely void of traffic at 5 p.m. on a Friday. And it's rather beautiful in many ways. But talk to me in 2 months. I see it on Facebook. Everyone's enjoying their time with their family. It's wonderful. They're painting their houses. They're playing video games. They're cooking up a storm in their backyard and barbecuing. They're really enjoying the time off, and that's a wonderful thing to see. Talk to me in 2 months. Talk to me in 2 months and tell me. And everyone says, "Oh, it's only for 2 weeks." No, it's going to be a lot longer than that, guys. This is not going away in 2 weeks. It's going to be a lot longer than that. People don't realize it. It will. We're still fighting it here in China. The whole world is fighting this. It's not going away for a very long time. So, in 2 months, let's see if you have the same feeling, that if it's an overreaction or not. Need to open the beaches, yet young people have fun and get herd immunity. They've been talking a lot about that herd immunity thing. I'm fine with them opening the beaches. I think large crowds at the beaches are not good. Even the director of the CDC said, you need to get out every day and get some sun and get some nature. You can't be locked up in your house. Now, here in China, we were physically locked in our houses. We could not leave. Now, I'm a little different. I had the run of a college campus. Everyone knows that. So my situation was a little different. But people were welded into their apartments. People could not leave their homes. Even here in Zhongshan, where we've had a total of 68 total cases since the very beginning. A city of 3.5 million people, people were not allowed to leave but once every 3 days. You were blocked. You did not have the right to walk down the street. Okay. After 2 months of this, You know, people will get, especially American citizens. You won't go through it. Now in America, you can go for a walk. You can go walk your dog. You can go to the supermarket every day if you want. You know, there's no stopping. You can go 3 times a day if you want. You know, now when you get to the supermarket, that private business might have some certain, restrictions, and you follow that private business's rules. But there's not a policeman standing outside your door saying, "Don't come out." Shelter in place is a bad term too, by the way. That's what you tell children when there's a gun in the school. Shelter in place. It means to barricade yourself in your house. And that's not what you should be doing. You should practice social distancing. Be smart. If you're scared and you don't want to infect people, don't go out. You have that choice. You have that freedom. Don't give it up. Let's see. But yet local grocery stores are packed with people, and it only takes 1, 2 to spread the dozens in that environment. There's been a lot of talk lately about the virus surviving on surfaces, and we've known that for a long time. We've known that from the very beginning. However, there is no record of anyone catching the virus from a supermarket. There's none. Not a single one. There's no conclusive evidence of people catching the virus from touching a surface. The vast majority of all of these are human connection, one-on-one, close human-to-human contact. Okay? If you go to a restaurant, there's no evidence of the virus being transmitted through your food. Okay. And by the way, if you don't want to go to the supermarket because you are scared of being around so many people, don't go to the supermarket. Order it online. Have it delivered to you. I know a lot of people might not have that luxury, but there are alternatives. As of now, how many teachers do you know that have lost their teaching positions because their schools have shut down for good, or because their schools are not paying them? Thanks. Harry, many. It's a constant thing. Now, I have my circle of friends here in Zhongshan, but I also in contact and talk with many teachers from around China and from around Southeast Asia. If you were an illegal teacher, like many of them are, you are shit out of luck. You have no job, you have no recourse, and no one's going to come help you. You have no job and no prospects for the future. If you were a legal teacher working on a work permit and here completely legally, if you work for a private company, many of those private companies have closed, laid off their teachers, and said, sorry, we have no more business. You can reapply when we reopen, whenever that is. So they're left out to dry. If you work for some of the international departments at some of these public schools or university, I know most of them are working online and are getting paid regularly. If you work for a training center, it depends on the training center. If you work for a small mom and pop, you are in a lot of trouble. Unless you have a very good mom and pop shop, but those are few and far between. And that's not just here in China. That's all throughout Southeast Asia and the Middle East too, by the way. If you work for a large chain, you have to just look at your contract. Many contracts are written up so they have different pay scales, such as you have your base pay, then you have your teaching pay, and then you have certain allowances such as sustenance and housing allowance, and then you have transportation allowance. And all of these add up to your total gross salary. And you really have to look at your contract because according to the law, you're just required to be paid your base salary, which in many times is less than half of what all of your salary combined would be. So salaries are a lot less. And that doesn't just go with teachers. It goes with many businesses. Many businesses are trying to get away with paying, and so they should. They don't have the cash flow. They don't have the the revenue to pay their employees. Even though the government requires them to do, it's very difficult to do for many of these small businesses. That's here in China, by the way. So Nicholas says, I'm actually doing everything the same as the Chinese. It works very efficiently. I only go out every second day if I need to. I think that's smart, Nicholas. Even though I've been given the right to go out every day now, not the right, I've been given the permission to go out every day, once per day. I still don't go out every day because I don't need to. So I go out sometimes. Like today, I was out. Um, I went to lunch with a friend, and what else did I do today? I got stuck in traffic. Well, it was a big traffic jam. uh, but tomorrow I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go for another trail run tomorrow. So 2 days in a row. Ooh, big deal, right? But then Tuesday I plan on staying here and getting some work done. So I still practice my social distancing just like everybody else. You know, I don't feel the need to go to a bar and party it up. I do think the movie theaters can be open. If you space out the patrons well enough, yeah, I think that's fine. But they're still closed. All entertainment venues are closed still. Let's see, what else can I talk about? I made a lot of notes here, guys. Okay. I'm gonna save a lot of this for tomorrow. I'm on my trail run. I plan on making a video tomorrow on my trail run to talk about fear and what fear is to me and what my understanding of the emotion is and how that plays a role in times like these. So I'm going to save all that for then. So let's get into, we haven't talked about it. If you're wondering this picture, I've got some pictures up here. This is a picture of the backside of Hong Kong Island. I can't remember the name of this town off the top of my head now. It's driving me crazy. It's a great seafood town. You can take a bus all the way there, a little mini bus. But I went and hiked the Dragon's Back Trail, which runs along this ridge behind the main city of Hong Kong. And just to the left would be Big Wave Bay, whereas one of the greatest places you can surf in all of Asia. It's a little known little beach, but wonderful. I think I might have done a video about it. Nobody watched it, but I did go to Big Wave Bay with my family when they visited me here. China does attract quite a bit of illegal foreign teachers for some reason. China has cracked down on the foreign teachers a lot, Matthew. They've done a lot of checks. They're very, very into this. People still do it, but it's very hard to live your life as a illegal teacher here in China now. It's much easier to be a backpacker in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia. The markets there are very saturated with teachers, but those aren't real teachers. They're backpackers. They're people on a gap year teaching flashcard English to children. And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. I think it's still a good thing. But here in China, you can't do that anymore. If you do, and you get caught, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. You'll get deported. You'll get fined. You could even be put in jail if you do it too much, because it's essentially fraud. That's how the Chinese see it. You're frauding the people. So, and they will catch you. They'll catch you different ways. They'll catch you through the tax system. They'll catch you through the entry and exit if you're doing visa runs. If you don't have the right paperwork, you're technically not supposed to rent an apartment, but people do subleases, illegal subleases to get around that. Your daily balance in your banks are reported to the tax authorities almost daily. So, they see increases, and if you don't pay taxes on that, they'll flag you as you try to get out of the country and say, give us all your money, and they'll take all your money out of your account. So it's something that that I've been talking about since day one I got in China. The days of coming here and working illegally are over. Now, do people do it? They still do it, and they still get away with it. But, man, I don't think it's a good idea at all. Cheeky asks, what are your thoughts about Serpent Zede's last broadcast? Can you be more specific? What exactly? Because he talked about a lot of things. I obviously don't agree with everything Winston says. I do respect the guy in many ways, especially his early work with some of the videos that I watched that helped me decide to come to China. He took a lot of the mysticism and the out of this country, so I give credit where credit's due. Since he's gone back to America, he's been a lot more critical about the government here, and a lot of that I do not agree with. I think his viewpoints are kind of seen through a certain lens, which is fine. That's his lens, and he's welcome to say it. And I'll defend his right to say whatever he wants whenever he wants. I just don't agree, and we can have healthy debates about that. But you can be more specific. I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, I'm seriously surprised that there are so many illegal teachers in China. I know it's a huge problem in Vietnam, but I thought China was on top of it like Korea is. Korea is very strict. I was going to go to Korea, but I have tattoos, right? They're not bad tattoos. They're not offensive or anything. But I remember the paperwork. I had to send pictures of my tattoos and with my application so that they can approve it. And I was like, this is a little much, guys. And so I still am fascinated by Korea. But again, Korea is also a very saturated teaching market. Clampdown in Thailand. There always seems to be a clampdown in Thailand. They clamp down constantly. It's still the Wild West. Vietnam is an amazing country and amazing people, and still a really good ESL market. I have friends who are teaching there right now. If there was any country I would go to teach ESL tomorrow, it would be Vietnam. I've said that many times. There are still really good jobs in Vietnam. Ken says, I am SoCal in lockdown the last couple of days. UCI resident tested for positive. You're going to find many people tested positive. I grew up in Irvine, right near UCI. I know that area extremely well. That's my hometown. It doesn't surprise me. And it's fine. It'll be okay. Schools also get fined in Thailand. I'm curious what the Nicholas. Do you know what the fine is if you get caught working illegally in Thailand? I'm curious. Some businesses look at fines as a cost of doing business. They pay the fine and they go about their day. Hilda says, my last school in Korea is considered one of the most legit private school chains in Asia. They still hired illegal teachers as sub-teachers when we took sick days. That's a common practice all throughout Asia, Harry. And if you're talking about sub-teachers, that is something that often the government will turn a blind eye to because it's kind of a brick wall in the system. There really is there's a need for it in the market, and the government knows that there's a need, and this is how businesses are fulfilling that need. But it is something, it can turn around on you tomorrow. How about the Chinese hating foreigners? This is something I continue to hear. There is, just today at lunch, we overheard, I overheard the conversation of a family who was not next to us. They were down a little ways, and they were trying to talk under their breath. But I heard Waigoran and a couple of other words that I did understand, and my colleague was with me, and she told me, they're talking about you, Paul. I said, well, what are they saying? Well, they're looking at you, and they're saying, is he dangerous? Is he where did he come? How long has he been in Zhongshan? How long has he been in China? Did he just get here? Maybe he has the virus. And that's what they were talking about. But then she said that, but don't worry. They also said, well, because I'm with a Chinese person, that I'm probably okay. I get a lot of stares, but that's par for the course here. Here in Zhongshan, I have not experienced any kind of hatred or derogatory mention directly pointed towards me. They might say it under their breath from far away. But everywhere I go, I can't tell if they're smiling because everyone's wearing a mask. But for the most part, people are still friendly as they always are. And so it is very frustrating to get into certain places because there's an app that you have to use to get a red, green, blue, or red, green, yellow. If you're red, you should be locked up in quarantine. If you're yellow, you're kind of iffy. You've been around people who have supposedly been exposed. If you're green, you're good to go. Well, this app is only you can only be used for people with a Chinese ID. It's not universal throughout the country, and each little region has their own like little versions of it. And here in Zhongshan, I've never been able to get it to work. So I was denied entry into the metro, not the metro system, but metro supermarket, because I couldn't get the app to work. And they said, well, you can't come in. There's a workaround where you can scan a QR code and it shows the police or the security, all the places that your phone has been tracked to. And that has worked for me at some roadblocks, but it did not work when I went to Metro. They just basically said, no, you can't come in. Now, technically, they're supposed to be doing that for all citizens, not just foreigners. But because the system is not set up for foreigners, I don't have a Chinese ID number. Yeah, foreigners are hit harder with this. And it has been brought to the attention of the Zhongshan Foreign Affairs Committee, and we'll see if they bring an update or have some kind of workaround. But there is a lot more, scrutiny towards foreigners, the foreign faces, is because we're seen as the ones bringing it back. And there have been, I'd say, if there were like 15 people that brought the coronavirus back into the country, one of them might be a foreigner, and the other 14 are actually Chinese citizens coming home from abroad. And that is mentioned in these news reports, by the way. It'll say this Chinese national, or it'll show this person with a surname this. It's very clear which ones are foreigners and which ones are Chinese. So I don't see any vagueness in it. Harry says, dude, everyone I worked with had tattoos, even the director of the school. It's bullshit. I want more. Yeah. But especially, this is the program was the government program. Oh, God, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. You know which one I'm talking about? It's the government program that you go work in the public schools. That's the program that wanted the photos of my tattoos. I can't remember the name of it. Shoot. It's a very popular program. Most teachers in Korea go to that program unless you go work for a private company. Middle East is where the big money is nowadays. I thought about that. That was my original plan, Nicholas, to work in China for 1 year, maybe 2, and then go to the Middle East. I thought my military background would give me a leg up because I've been there in that area already, and I'm actually very excited to go back. But then I fell in love with this country. I fell in love with China. I fell in love with the mystique of it, and the fact that I don't know jack about this country even still. I love learning new things every day, and this is why I stay. And in certain parts of the Middle East, I can't live my life the same way I can live here, even though the money is good in the Middle East. I don't teach English for the money. I work at a university. Universities are notorious for paying very, very little. So I don't do this for the money. I teach because I enjoy it. I love it. And it provides many other opportunities that I would never get otherwise. Yes, I was a Winston fan before. I enjoyed those motorcycle days and went around the rural China. Since he was into politics, I lost interest and stopped watching his videos. I still watch him. You can't deny the guy has some experience. He's worth listening to. Again, I don't agree. You should make up your own. He's very adamant that he is right and everyone else is wrong, and that's something I do disagree with. I'll admit that I'm wrong often too. And I hope he can be humbled a little bit. It's $1,000 fine, $1,000 U.S. fine. That's a high fine. Here in Kansas City area, they say they can fine you up to $500 and or 6 months in jail, way over the top. John, what are they fining you for? Is that for keeping your business open, or going out and going for a walk in your neighborhood? I'm curious. Servant Zade seems to have a big chip on his shoulder with China. His videos are not as good as they used to be. I wonder how long he will last in the States. He'll do very well. He's played the YouTube game very well. He's not a stupid man. He's very, very smart. And I've talked with him, and I have an awful lot of respect for him in many ways. I just have a disagreement with him that we've never voiced with each other. I don't talk with him. We're part of some, you know, WeChat YouTube group, and he gives great advice to the YouTubers in this thing. He leaves the politics and his viewpoints to his videos, and that's what he does. I'll defend his right to say whatever he wants on there. That's what it's all about. I disagree with about 80% of what he says. I think it's a little harsh, but that doesn't mean I don't respect the guy. He's been very helpful to the YouTube community here in China, and in many ways. Again, give credit where credit's due. His videos are brilliant. Well, I wouldn't say that. I have lost a little interest in it because it's just green screen, him sitting and talking. It's just him talking and giving a viewpoint. He's become a pundit in that sense. And I think he'd be the first one to admit that if he could come back to China and walk around the streets and talk what he wants to say, he'd do it in a heartbeat. But he can't. He's kind of burnt that bridge, I think. He's an honest guy, and all of his videos are very interesting. I think he's telling his truth, and his truth is not necessarily everyone else's truth. You got to give him. He's got balls. He talks about things that a lot of people that I won't talk about. I can't talk about. I'm not allowed. 5 years in jail in Thailand if they wanted to. Yeah. Oh, yes, Epic. Thank you, Harry. That's the name of the program, the Epic program. That's the one I was applying to. I wanted to work in the public school system there. I didn't want to work in a Hagwon. I applied to work in a Hagwon. Hagwon, I think that's what it's called, right? It's late here. It's after midnight. And I was accepted. And then right after that, I decided, Korea's kind of small. Maybe I should try China. They say going for walks and normal business, aka grocery store, hardware, okay. Wasn't clear, so guess mostly non-essential businesses being open. What's an essential business? You can argue that left and right. All right. So let's talk about teaching online. I am not teaching online. I have taught online before. God, it's been over an hour now, and we haven't even gotten to the topic yet. I have taught online before, but not for an actual platform, an online teaching platform. I've just taught with a couple students on like Skype, one-on-one. And there are good points and bad points when it comes to this teaching online. So I have this picture right here. This is Zhongshan in Xiaolan, otherwise known as the phallic park. So everyone's asking, if schools start? No one knows when Guangdong is going to start. This is from OneTube Daily. I have a friend of mine who works for this media company. Remember, there are many media companies out there. It's not all quote-unquote state-run media. There's hundreds, if not thousands of them out there that you can get your news from, and you read it all and you make up your own decision. But school has started in this province. It says, be aware. Nearly 1 million students in their final year of senior and junior high schools in southwest China's Guizhou province attended school after a prolonged Lunar New Year festival due to the coronavirus outbreak. Customized school buses, wearing masks, temperature checks, designated routes to classrooms to prevent the gathering of crowds. The first day of school back seemed special and safe for the students. According to the Provincial Education Department, over 2,400 high schools reopened on Monday, involving more than 990,000 students, as the coronavirus situation has greatly eased in the province. So you can see here, everyone's wearing a mask. I'm not sure that this would translate well if I can, as an oral English teacher, I need to see, the students need to see my mouth, and I need to see theirs. It's a big part of pronunciation is mouth placement. Okay? Them watching my mouth. If I'm wearing a mask and they're wearing a mask, you might as well just be listening to the radio. So I'm not sure how that will work when I go back to work, if I do. Guizhou has seen no new confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus disease in nearly a month. and the province's last COVID-19 patient was discharged on Monday. Zhao Jin, head of the Education Bureau of Guangdong, the provincial capital, said more detailed and tailored plans will be made to ensure safe online schooling for more students. So that is in Guizhou, which I've been to. It's considered one of the more poor provinces of China. It's the natural beauty there is beautiful. I've been there once as I went through from Hunan to Chongqing. I went through Guizhou, and it was really stunning scenery. And this summer, if I can get the time off and if everything works out, I plan on doing maybe a 2 to 3 week road trip all throughout Guizhou. The natural beauty there is just stunning, and it's one of the cheaper places to travel in China, and it's supposed to be one of the most beautiful. I'm really excited about that. I cannot wait. So some schools reopen after more than a month. This was a video. For some reason, it's not going to work. Chinese students flock home as coronavirus shuts Western school. This is old. It's not 3 days. It's 3 days ago. This is from Panda Guides. It's another media company here in China. David Curtin, and talking about planes coming back from America, also Australia, but mostly America, full of students. But now these students have to do 14-day quarantine. Many of them are still coming because the schools are closed down. So do they want to stay in America, or do they want to come home and see their families? I'm fine with this. I have no problem. Parents grapple with e-learning as Chinese schools stay shut. This is what I wanted to talk about today. Oh, wait, that's a new... They say nothing wrong to tell the truth, but not everyone has the same interests. Ken, you're right. And that's the one thing that's great about YouTube. It's very democratic. I mean, if you don't want to watch it, if you don't like what the person's saying, then you don't watch them. You watch something else. Truth is freedom. In vino veritas. There is truth in wine. Politics in the area that I try to avoid is the first place because I'm not interested and not good at it. It's your choice. For me, I quite like distance learning. I teach lit and history, and we use Edmodo and Zoom. Pretty much every educational program now will teach how to manage online learning. Matthew, I'm very interested in this. This is something that I'm excited for, but at the same time a little worried about. I'm not sure that e-learning or online learning, it can be a complement to the classroom, but I'm not sure it will take over. I hope it doesn't, because there's so many elements of the physical classroom that you can't have in e-learning. And I personally think that classroom learning is better, not just from a teacher standpoint, but from a student standpoint too. Remember, I'm still a student, and when I take classes, I don't like taking classes online. I will go to a school and sit there. Now, I've taken Chinese lessons online. I got to tell you, I get more out of a lesson if I'm physically there with a teacher, and that teacher can react to how I'm doing, like in real time. That's what being a teacher is. It's not giving a lecture or making a video. It's having real interaction with your students. And it's very hard to do that if you've got a little screen with 25 windows of students who are probably all kind of on their phone doing this and not really paying attention. If you're in a classroom, you have physical body language that you can use to deal with, students who are not paying attention. All you got to do is walk near them. If a student is struggling, it's difficult to see them struggling through a video camera, but you can see it in their face and their eyes and their body language, and you can do things. You can put the rest of the students into groups, and you can kneel down and work directly with that one student. These are something I can't do online. Not yet. And I could be wrong, by the way, because I've never taught for these platforms. But that's not to mention the lack of social, the social aspect of school. Students are staying home; they're away from their friends, so everything is moving online right now. But I think that Everything moving online in the last couple of months is, again, plugging a hole in the boat with bubblegum. It's not the long term solution, it's a short term solution. And then eventually the students are going to have to come back into the classroom. Have you ever left China to go back home and said, "This is it, I'm done, I'm teaching abroad," and then gone back out to teach again? This is my third time. Harry, no, I haven't. I've always wanted to be a teacher my whole life. I was a businessman for many. I was a troupe for many years, and then I was a businessman back in California, and then I did hotel management. I was a hotel manager as well as worked in real estate and real estate finance. Um, did high level property management out of LA. The but teaching was always something I wanted to do, but it was something I was going to do when I'm an old man, and I never thought I'd do it as young as I am. I'm middle aged, but I didn't think I'd get there now. I thought I'd something I'd do when I retire. But I'm so happy I made the jump into teaching. It's financially it's not as rewarding, but the intrinsic rewards that you get for teaching outweigh any kind of paycheck I could ever get. No, when I go home, my thought isn't about moving back home. It's about spending as much quality time as I can with my family, because I only get to go home and see them about once a year. And this year, because of the coronavirus, I don't think I'll be able to go home this year. I've talked with my family about it already. If in the status, we'll see what happens in the next few months. I have the summer, about 3 months in the summer, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go home and see my family. But right now, it'd be 2 weeks in quarantine when I get there, and 2 weeks in quarantine when I come back to China. So that's 1 month of sitting alone in a hotel room at my own expense. It's just not feasible, unless things change dramatically between now and the summer. The summer's right around the corner, guys. I mean, it's almost April. It's coming very, very quickly. My class sizes are quite small enough. I don't have more than 10 students in a class, so it's manageable. I know teachers at other schools with like 50 in the class, and they find it difficult. That's true. The more students you have in your class, the harder it is. It depends on the material that you're teaching too. I'm going to do another video on my lesson planning and the differences between teaching one-on-one, small class of maybe 3 or 4, larger classes of 10 to 20, and then what I teach, which is 100 students in a class, which just becomes a lecture at that point, and all you can really do is choral drilling. So it's a much different uh, environment, it's a different lesson. I love working one-on-one with a student because I get to know the students personally, and I know what their motivations are. And motivation therapy or motivation theory is a big part of being a teacher. If you can understand what a student's motivations are, then you can tailor your lessons to that. So the less students you have, the better it is. However, in language learning, sometimes one-on-one teaching can be a disadvantage from a teaching standpoint, because there's certain activities that you can't do. If you want to facilitate a conversation between a couple of students, you can put them together and say, okay, he's going to say this, what's your response going to be? And then you can step back and just let them talk. You monitor and you do corrections as they come up, or you can sit back, let them finish their conversation. It really does improve their confidence if they can talk to each other, and it's more fun for them too. And then you can do delayed correction at the end. So there's different ways you can do it. You have more options, more freedom. When you're in a large class of 50 plus, there are very few things you can do. You can't put them into big groups because then the outliers will not pay attention. You can't put them into small groups because then you have too many small groups that you have to monitor. So the best thing is just to go to the default choral drilling aspect of it. It's kind of a disservice to the students. Okay, moving on. I looked at teaching online. Millions of children across the world aren't going to school. It's just their education that could suffer, yeah. Excuse me. There are many things we have to consider when you move your entire education system online. So I started looking because I'm not working right now, and I thought, okay, what should I do with all my time? Should I work online? Should I teach online? I looked into it, and the first thing I saw was this. Okay, so I just did a Google search. Okay, so here's goabroad.com. And of course, they had teachaway.com. Here's Teachaway. These are recruiting companies based in China. I think of China, yeah. I don't know what country they're based out of, but like 8 amazing companies to let you teach English from home. And then they list them. You know, here's Teachaway, VIP Kid, Dada. And each one of these has their own platforms and their own compensation plans and everything. Cool. Go Kid, 51 Talk, English Hunt. I personally don't know anyone who works for any of these platforms. All the people that I do know that are teaching online are working directly for their schools and some kind of software that they have. But if you go to YouTube, you see, oh, teaching online is great, and these guys are sitting on a beach in Thailand. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. They often advertise $20, $25 an hour, but that's not what they pay. You know, especially if you're starting out, you get paid a lot less. And then let's not forget your tax situation, contract situations, fines. You have to have a steady connection. There's all kinds of things wrong with it. So here's a list of all the different companies out there that you can teach online at. It's insane. This is just some of them. There's so many. And everyone out there is going to say, oh, work for mine. Work for mine's company, because they get recruitment bonuses. They recruit teachers. Now, here's the bad things about working online. First of all, the interaction. I mean, I'd much rather have coffee with somebody in person than through Skype, wouldn't you? So the interaction is kind of sterile. In a classroom, I can be running back and forth. I can look at this. Oh, good job. All right, now you try it. Okay, let me. No. Say it like this. Say it like, yeah, that's it. Good job. You know, it's a lot more fun when it's just a screen with me. The students are going to fall asleep no matter how interesting my lesson plan is. So the million platforms, which ones will stay, which ones won't. You hear many horror stories of they're being scammed, especially these new platforms. You get on, you teach, and then they close up shop and they never pay you. That does happen a lot. Bad students, classroom discipline is just not there. You know, there is no classroom discipline unless, and this is another bad thing, oftentimes these children have their parents standing over them, watching everything you do and critiquing and judging your class. One of the great things about teaching where I teach, in classrooms I teach, that parents are not there. It's me and the students. So I don't have that constant judgment. Yeah, there'll be like my head teacher or my boss will come in and watch part of my lesson, and that's fine. That's his job to do it, right? But I don't have someone constantly judging every single thing that you say and do. I like the one-on-one teaching, but it's hard to find a good teacher. It is. I have multiple learning difficulties, so doing online classes is hard for me. Me too. If you're ADD, thank you for calling it a difficulty and not a disability. You watched my video, right, Nicholas? Yeah, I'm dyslexic and I'm ADD. I'm not ADHD, but I think ADD is a bullshit thing, by the way. You know, the attention deficit disorder. It's not a disorder. It just means I find something more interesting than what you're saying. That's all it is. Yeah. If you need to work 40 hours a week, then working online is not a gig for you. If you need that income, you're going to have to work for multiple platforms. And many of these platforms, if you sign a contract, they won't let you work for multiple platforms. So you're kind of stuck. You have to really pick which platform you want. You have to work in peak hours. So if you're working in America, understand that most of the students here are here in China, and you know, when you're awake, they're asleep. Wow, it's 1 a.m. already. Almost 1 a.m. in China. I got to get to bed soon. There's no job security. Even if you have a contract, if you're based out of China, good luck getting that contract enforced. Uh, you have no control over anything if you work for an online platform. The market is saturated completely. So getting good pay, the pay will continue to be low no matter what. You're never going to make a good salary working online. So let's say you see a job that advertises $20 an hour. Well, as a new teacher, you won't get that. You'll have some probationary period that they will, they'll say it's 3 months, but then of course they will extend it another 6 months after that. So keep that in mind. And so your base pay as a new teacher will probably be around $15 to $17 an hour. Okay, well, what currency are you getting paid in? Well, if you're getting paid in Chinese RMB, then you have to have a Chinese bank account. You can't get that unless you have all the correct work permits and and stuff. If you're getting paid in US dollars, well, then guess what? You are probably in the contract, and you will have to pay self-employment tax, which can be as high as 40%. Plus, you have to take into account your prep time. You don't just come in and teach. You have to prepare your class. So let's say that you have a 1-hour class, and so you prepare for 1 hour. Some people can do it for less. Sometimes it takes more. It depends on the lesson. And then you have to give feedback and grade homework if you give homework. And this is unpaid time. So if you're getting paid $15 for a teaching hour, you're really working like 3 hours. So that dilutes it, plus your taxes on top of that. So the flexibility is you can do it from anywhere, but can you do it from a beach in Thailand? Well, you have to have a steady connection. I mean, even here in China, my connection is not that great. It's if I'm teaching a lesson and it cuts out anytime during that lesson, then the company can fine you or impose some kind of penalty. You have to have a quiet environment, to teach in. You can't teach in a coffee shop. Yeah. Okay. So is teaching online the future? Maybe. I don't think it's for me. It's not right now. It's just I don't see the rewards in it. Yes, I have a lot of time, but there's a lot of things I can do of it. There's a lot of other things I can do with that time. Okay. No, look at that. I'll give $10 to someone who can tell me where this is. You all know that one. That's in I can't remember. Is it Utah or New Mexico? It's near the border there. It's Navajo Indian Reservation. This is an amazing place. I was there a few years ago. Drove all around went hiking, and I loved it. I don't think many Chinese schools have been able to adopt effectively to online teaching. It can be done successfully as there's a wealth of academic research on it, but it requires teacher training. You could be right, Matthew. Maybe there just isn't enough teacher training to do it. I know I've never received any training on teaching online, and I might not even have the skill set to do it, but to be honest with you, I don't want to do it. I like teaching in person. But that's me. Teaching online might be for you, but there's all these pitfalls you have to be aware of if you're new to it. Many people do make a good living on it, but the people who do make a good living and can sustain themselves is pretty rare. It's pretty far. Not many people do it full time. I think you're going to need to do another live stream. Maybe. Okay, with that being said, I'm tired, guys. It's 1 a.m. I've been online now for an hour and a half. I'll leave this up for everyone to comment. I'm sorry if I got a little on my rant when I started. I'm sure that some people won't like that. But, oh well, nothing I can do. And I'm sorry if the connection is not good. Nothing I can do with that either. But that's my rant for today. I'm going to go trail running tomorrow, make another video, and continue to show you what life is like for me here in China. So with that being said, thank you everybody for joining me today. And I hope you all stay safe, stay level-headed, enjoy your life, and yeah, good night, everybody.